Do you understand the concept of living within your means? Oh, wait, maybe that's too much for you. Just be grateful you were even allowed to join. If there aren't any seats, maybe you could pour drinks and butter up people. Ha ha. With that, the flashy woman, Mary, strutted off to join the larger crowd, seeming satisfied after saying her piece. Though I could only catch bits of her words, I couldn't ignore the woman at the corner table, looking down with her shoulders shaking slightly. Hey, are you okay? Did she say something to you? Why are you sitting all the way back here? No, it's fine. I guess it's just different in the big company. I mean, apparently there's no seat for someone like me, a high school grad. Gently placing a handkerchief in her hand, I made up my mind and headed from the edge of the banquet hall toward the crowded stage area, where everyone had gathered. There, I announced a startling truth that would leave Mary in shock. Clank! Phew, finally a break. But seriously, this vending machine still has the same lineup as 10 years ago. This coffee is a rare find these days. My name is Samuel Yates. I joined this company right after college. But I was sent to a branch office almost immediately and have been shuffled around affiliated companies since. Finally, in my 10th year, I've returned to the main office. I'm currently with the product development department, considered one of the company's most prestigious. I don't mind the heavy workload, but whoa, a sweetened canned coffee? That's rough. Oh, sorry, did everyone hear that? But you know, keeping up with health trends and all. Maybe you should look into that, old man. I mean, you lucked out landing here, right? Her name is Mary. A graduate of a top university, fluent in multiple languages, she's what they call an elite. With her polished makeup, stylishly curled hair, and form-fitting attire, she practically radiates confidence. Mary generally talks to me this way. But I'm not her true target. Good morning, Samuel, Mary. Good morning, Michelle. Whoa, you're carrying a lot today. The one juggling several shopping bags is Michelle. She is always smiling, kind-hearted, and hardworking. Though the company technically hires high school graduates, it's highly competitive as an industry leader. Having overcome that, I really admire Michelle, who's over a decade younger than me. Hey, a sweet cleaning lady I'm friendly with just gave me these as souvenirs from her trip. I was thinking of sharing them with everyone at the main desk. Hey, can you not? Ha! Ignoring the friendly greeting, Mary, sipping on some fancy smoothie, cut in loudly, causing the office to fall silent. She quieted everyone deliberately. Don't you get it? Souvenirs are totally outdated. And can you guarantee no one here has allergies? Plus, saying you got them from a cleaning lady is like saying, here, I picked these up off the street. And really, what are they? Some cheap-looking, sugary dumplings, so lame. I'm sorry. Good, as long as you get it. Oh, high school grad, be careful. Keep this up, and you'll end up just like the guy next to you. A second-rate college grad is no different, after all. She shot a smug glance around the office, as if declaring her opinion was everyone's consensus, and walked back to her desk with a laugh. Yes, Mary's real target is Michelle. She constantly brings up the fact that Michelle only has a high school diploma. With Mary at the top of our department, others follow her lead. That's the reality here. In some ways, my arrival may have made things worse. I felt a bit guilty about it, even if only for a short time. Michelle, mind if I take 2 boxes? Oh yes, 2 boxes? I took the bags of souvenirs from her and placed the boxes on the central desk. Both Michelle and Mary looked on in shock. These are souvenirs Michelle received, and she'd like to share them with the department, so I'm setting them out here. Hey, old man. I told you to cut it out, didn't I? These are from some random cleaning lady. People. Oh, I didn't explain properly. The friend Michelle mentioned is Amanda, who used to be the CEO's secretary here. She recently joined the cleaning team after her kids became independent. No way. I chat with her often, so I'm not making this up. And let me tell you, former executive secretaries have an incredible eye for quality gifts. We have Michelle to thank for this. Grab one while they last. I took one for myself and returned to my desk. Behind me, I could hear the lively sounds of everyone rushing to get one. Samuel. Sorry for acting on my own. Oh, and I already took one of these for myself. Took one? Samuel, you've already started eating it. Oh, busted. I really like these, but this seems not good anyway. Despite being told countless times to act with more authority, I knew this was where I fell short. I sighed and was about to take a sip of coffee. Michelle covered her mouth, trying to stifle a laugh, but ended up letting it out anyway, looking a bit apologetic. Sorry. Ha ha. I wanted to thank you, but you're just too funny, Samuel. Oh, that reminds me. The sadness from earlier was gone, and Michelle was back to her usual smiling self. Did I help even a little? To thank you, I'll bring you a homemade lunch tomorrow. You always seem busy, and I mostly see you with coffee. Would that be okay? Lunch? I can't remember the last time I had rice. I'll definitely bring one. The next day, Michelle actually brought a homemade lunch, which meant we'd be eating side by side, and I couldn't help but worry about what Mary might say if she saw us. But Mary, claiming something about a limited edition lunch, left early, leaving just the two of us in the office. Thank you again for yesterday. Here, enjoy. Wow, making something like this every day is impressive. I feel a bit guilty. I put in extra effort today as a thank you. I'm pretty confident in my cooking. How does it taste? It's delicious. Yay! My mom was often sick, so I cooked for my siblings from a young age. It feels great to be complimented by someone outside my family. I see. That must be why she chose to work right after high school. Thinking about what she'd been through, I found myself admiring Michelle as a truly wonderful person. From that day on, Michelle started bringing me lunch regularly. I tried to insist that she didn't have to, but she said making 2 lunches was no more trouble than one. Honestly, I was happy about it. Her cooking lunch gave me the strength to get through my hectic days. But most of all, I truly enjoyed spending time with Michelle, who made the age gap between us feel insignificant. In fact, even when I did notice the age difference, it was in a way that made our time together even more enjoyable. One day, Mary passed by, but she ignored us without her usual jabs. Thinking back, ever since the souvenir incident, Mary's snide remarks toward Michelle had virtually stopped. Samuel, have you prepared yet? Ha! For a meeting today? Ha ha! No, this. Michelle pulled up an inn's homepage on her computer. She'd bookmarked it, clearly excited. Oh, right, that's next week. I'd almost forgotten, but it was the company retreat. It should be fun. Yes. And thanks for lunch. The company retreat was a 2-night, 3-day trip, booked at a particularly nice inn. Right now, we're in the middle of a banquet there. I arrived a bit late, but as soon as I entered the banquet hall, my coworkers called me over to join them. It seemed like some of them wanted to talk since that incident with the souvenirs. Perhaps thanks to the alcohol, everyone was lively, and I thought that if I could build these connections, Michelle might find her work more enjoyable too. But Michelle was nowhere to be seen. And neither was Mary, who would normally be in the center of the crowd at a place like this. I had a bad feeling. Have you seen Michelle and Mary? Now that you mention it, they're not here. There are people from other departments, so I'm not sure. I think I saw them before the banquet. Though, I cut the conversation short and decided to search for Michelle. There were so many people around. Calling out her name wasn't an option. She might be chatting with friends from another department. If that's the case, that's fine, but I felt a strong need to find her. She was nowhere to be found. I raised my gaze to the far end of the hall. No way. My worst fears had come true. There, at the very edge of an unassigned table, Michelle was standing with her head down, while Mary leaned over her, saying something. I couldn't care less about proper etiquette. I rushed toward them. Do you even understand what living within your means means? Oh, right, maybe that's too advanced for someone like you. Just be grateful you were allowed to join. No seat? Then why don't you pour drinks and flatter people? That's so. What's going on here? Oh. Well, if it isn't Mr. Old-Timer. I thought you weren't coming. Don't worry, we've got your seat ready. I don't follow, Mary. Mary gave a satisfied smile and walked off to rejoin the crowd. Though I'd only caught fragments of what was said, I couldn't ignore Michelle, who was standing at the corner of the table, head lowered. Her shoulders trembling slightly. What happened? Did she say something to you? Why are you sitting all the way out here? No, it's nothing. I guess things really are different in the big company. For someone like me, a high school grad, it seems there's no seat here. Mary was in charge of organizing the event. I see. So that's why she held back until now. She was planning this all along. I gently placed a handkerchief in Michelle's hand and helped her sit down. Resolving myself, I made a phone call. Then headed from the edge of the banquet hall toward the crowded stage area. I wasn't sure if this would help Michelle. I shouldn't let personal feelings get in the way in the first place. But a company where kind people are forced to endure unfair treatment isn't a place I can believe in. Rattle. Wait, is that Edward and the vice president, Mr. Hughes? What are they doing at the banquet? The room buzzed for a moment, but the head of HR, Edward, took the microphone, and silence fell over the crowd. Apologies for interrupting the banquet. This announcement was actually scheduled for tomorrow, but, well, here we are. Sorry for the sudden news. But we have a personnel announcement to make. Everyone looked stunned as Mr. Hughes took over. This was originally going to be a press announcement, but our president decided it would be more fun to do it here with everyone. The company was well known for the Yates brothers, our spirited president and sharp-eyed vice president, Mr. Hughes. That sharp gaze was now directed at one part of the room. Let's get right to it. Mr. Yates will retire and take on the role of chairman, and a new president will take his place. Mr. Yates, if you're moving up the schedule, we'll need a proper inaugural speech. No way. The room was still stunned, but a stifled gasp escaped from our product development department. At the far end of the hall, Michelle was clutching her handkerchief, her eyes wide with shock. Samuel. Everyone, sorry to interrupt your lively banquet. As of the 1st of next month, I will be assuming the role of company president. I'm Samuel Yates. I bowed, prompting a round of hesitant applause. Sighing, I thought to myself that while my 10 years of field experience had been valuable, I might have needed more practice with speeches like these. Formality doesn't suit me well, I suppose. Well, as you know, our company has grown from humble beginnings, expanded through generations, and adapted to the times. Thanks to the strong bond we have with our employees. Do not create people who cannot be happy. This is the belief passed down from our founder, encompassing all those connected to our company. I intend to uphold this legacy. After a round of applause, I looked over at Michelle. She had her handkerchief pressed to her mouth, her eyes even wider as she looked at me. As much as I wanted to go to her, I knew it wasn't the time. Instead, I mouthed the words to her, hoping she would understand. Later. Once the banquet was over and everyone had returned to their rooms, I sat down in the deserted courtyard. Thinking back, I realized I hadn't told her where to meet. Maybe it didn't work out. Hey, you. Just as I started to gaze at the moon, lost in thought, someone smacked my shoulder from behind, more like practically knocked me off balance. Michelle. Honestly. I've been looking all over for you. Just saying later isn't exactly clear, you know? Right, good point. Michelle, adjusting her slightly rumpled clothes, sat down beside me. She must have searched everywhere. Feeling a bit guilty, I was also a little flustered by her different look tonight, her hair down and more relaxed. Here, coffee. Wait, you bought this for me? Oh, thank you. When I think of you, I think of coffee. Today, I'll join you. We both opened cans of coffee, different from the usual kind. I wasn't sure where to start. But somehow, sitting next to Michelle, under a different night sky, felt perfectly natural. So, you're the president, huh? I never thought it was worth mentioning, but I guess I surprised you. It actually makes sense. What? Her words caught me off guard. What part? What did she mean? I was just doing my job as usual, getting teased for being the old guy and all. Was there something off about me? To me, yes. Completely. You're really, truly, a wonderful person. What? Wonderful. I blurted out, and Michelle looked at me with a warm smile. Was it the moonlight or her different look? She had a different charm tonight. There was a captivating elegance to her beauty. I thought you were quiet, but you easily stepped in to help someone like me. You always lend a hand before I get overwhelmed. And when I do a good job, you make sure to praise me. Ha! The one time you patted my head, I was so embarrassed I had to run away. So she had been embarrassed. That night, I couldn't sleep after patting her head, just because I'd been so happy I'd done it on impulse. I guess I was really lucky to have you around. What? Oh, nothing. Anyway, if the president catches a cold, it'll be trouble. Let's head back. As Michelle stood up quickly, she wobbled, and I instinctively caught her. Sorry, my flip-flop strap. Are you okay? Take a seat and relax. Hey, Samuel. I can do it myself. I gently guided Michelle back down and kneeled in front of her. I took off her flip-flop and adjusted the strap. I was usually good at fixing things like this. This design was simple enough that it was easy to adjust. Right, but I couldn't help but notice Michelle's feet. I tried to focus solely on the flip-flop, but suddenly, my fingers started to fumble, thrown off by a surge of nerves. All done. Can you try them now, Michelle? No response from Michelle. Maybe she thought I was creepy after all. I probably didn't even need to squat down in front of her like that. I'd acted hastily. Could you put them on for me? What? I couldn't believe my ears. My feet fell asleep. Could you help me put them on, Samuel? Okay. I gently lifted her foot, carefully slipping the strap between her toes so it wouldn't catch. Hey, it tickles. The soft, breathy tone of her voice made my heart race. It was a relief that the moon had hidden itself. I was probably making the most ridiculous face right now. When I stole a quick glance at her face, I thought I saw a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I ended up spending a sleepless night after that. With the sudden schedule change and the prep meeting for the press conference, the team from HQ had me up and running from the morning. Seth, can I have a quick break? What? After all the accommodations I've made for you? You're following my lead for a while now. Oh, and it's Mr. Hughes. Unable to match his intense gaze, my company retreat came to an end, and my new life began. Clank. When I joined, when I came back, and now, every turning point seems to happen with a coffee from this vending machine. What are you standing there daydreaming about, our new president, Mr. Yates? Ouch. Madam, that hurts. When I arrived at work and bought my usual coffee from the vending machine, there she was, the madam, elegantly wearing her work uniform. This madam was none other than Amanda, the lady who'd brought the sugary dumplings. She'd known me since I was a kid, so honestly, I couldn't talk back to her even if I tried. "So, why are you in the product development department? The press conference is over, isn't it? I still have a few projects to wrap up, along with the handover. I'll be balancing both roles for the rest of the month. Another 2 weeks. Still the same as always, huh? You might want to find yourself a wife while you're at it." "Huh?" That might have been the loudest I've spoken since becoming an adult. Both my dad and my uncle have told me that if things keep going this way, they'll set up an arranged marriage for me. Honestly, I'd like to avoid that. I'm not interested. Anyway, time to get back to work. I hurried back to the office. I would have liked to take my time, but that wasn't an option. As expected, my environment had changed drastically. "Oh, good morning, Mr. Yates." "Oh, you're sweating, let me get you a handkerchief." "Morning, Mary." "No, really, I'm fine. I'm so thrilled to hear that you'll be staying in this department until the end of the month. Working with you is truly a dream come true. I'm so grateful to be at this company, and you're so dashing as our new president." "Don't you think?" When my uncle arranged for me to work at various branches and subsidiaries, he was adamant that no one mention my role as the next president. I didn't mind one way or the other, so I followed his instructions. It's not as though Yates is an uncommon name, and no one connected me with the president. Only now did I fully understand why he'd insisted on that. It was astonishing how much people could change. "Mr. Yates, how about dinner together before you leave this department?" "Good morning." I heard the sound of a chair sliding back from the adjacent desk and a quieter than usual greeting. "Oh. Can't you take a hint, high school grad? Good morning, Michelle." "Mary, let's get to work. Time just flies when I'm chatting with you, Mr. Yates. I'll be back again soon." Seeing Michelle again for the first time since the company retreat, I couldn't help feeling a bit nervous. I wondered if she was really okay after everything that happened. Would it be awkward to bring it up? "Michelle. Oh, should I start calling you Mr. Yates too? I'd rather you keep calling me the way you always have." "Oh, thank goodness. I was really worried about what to do." "Okay, let's have a great day, Samuel." There were still some people who hadn't changed. I felt a deep sense of relief that Michelle was one of them. Even though everything else had changed, some things remained the same. Michelle had brought me lunch again today. I felt a little embarrassed realizing I'd bought an unsweetened coffee, hoping she would. "Wow, this looks amazing, so lavish." "Yes. I put extra effort into it as a thank you." "A thank you?" We both paused, our chopsticks frozen midair. Memories of that day came rushing back. Was my face turning red? "Thank you for what you did at the company retreat. I never properly thanked you. It meant a lot that you came over to check on me. I was feeling pretty low. All I did was show up. I couldn't really do anything. No, just having you there made all the difference. If I'd been able to help her in any way, I was truly glad." Still, even though her words made me happy, I couldn't shake an odd feeling of unease. Maybe it was because she took out that handkerchief from her bag, her eyes welling up with tears. "Here, I'm returning your handkerchief. And today's lunch is the last one." "Oh, okay." I put all my gratitude into this one, as well as thanks for everything up until now. "Just leave the empty box on your desk when you're done. I have a conference room to set up." The words I wanted to say were stuck, unable to come out. Too many thoughts were getting in the way. Was it because I was becoming the president? Or the age difference? She gave me that radiant smile this morning, and now it felt like it was slipping away. "Thank you for everything. I enjoyed lunch with you. In these 10 years, I'd been to countless places, meeting people and parting ways. At times, it felt lonely, but my mind would quickly shift to preparing for my next post. It had become second nature. 10 years is a long time. And yet, this bond, this brief time we shared, was ending so easily, leaving me unexpectedly shaken. What words was I searching for? What was I thinking? I finished my work in the development department earlier than planned and fully transitioned to my role as president. This should do. Some employees may end up in unexpected positions, but based on my interviews with Stephen, they have high potential. They'll have strong mentors as well. This is how we'll proceed. Are you sure about this? Announcing that the final decision on personnel changes came directly from Mr. Yates. I've had experience with most roles here, so I'm confident in assessing resilience. Besides, I'd rather take on the tough decisions right at the start. For my first major task as president, I chose to implement a large-scale personnel reshuffle. Thankfully, most people supported it, and I aimed to create an environment where everyone could maximize their potential. But I knew it wouldn't be that simple. There would undoubtedly be objections. I was prepared to face those as well. Especially from the product development department, despite Stephen, the department head, being on board. There would likely be some resentment directed my way. I was genuinely surprised when I heard the news. Is that really true, Stephen? Apparently, after speaking with other employees, Stephen discovered that Mary had been taking credit for Michelle's accomplishments. It was, in essence, a case of stealing her work. Since I'd been around and mostly tied to my desk, Mary had escalated her passive-aggressive remarks and increased her attacks. Stephen felt strongly about ensuring Michelle's talents weren't overlooked. Mary, who had previous experience in sales, was transferred to another department. I was sure I'd be resented for this. But if it meant Michelle could work freely and confidently, that was all that mattered to me. Busy days continued. While I still got coffee delivered to me, my lunches had turned into having meetings over lunch. At the very least, I wanted to grab one of those usual cans of coffee. And those homemade lunches. Clank. Samuel. You holding up as president? Will you ever learn to knock, Mr. Yates? Look at you, talking back to your father when I came to give you praise. He was definitely just bored. Or maybe he'd run out of ideas and came by to take a break. I heard the personnel changes are going well, especially in the product development department. There's that girl. She was one of our few hires without a college degree. I even interviewed her myself. It's wonderful to see how much she's grown. What? Now that I think about it, Mr. Hughes did mention something like that. I must have brushed it off, too busy to pay attention. It must be about Michelle. I wanted to congratulate her if her desk was right next to me. I wanted to tell her I was proud, or joke that I'd make her a lunch to celebrate. Samuel. Yes? Can you really make her happy? And here I was. The product development floor. It's rare for a president to come down just to meet with one employee. I knew that, but even if it was a brief time, I worked here too. I could keep it casual. Stay calm and relax. I hope I'm not intruding. Wait, what? Not a single person was at their desk. I glanced at the whiteboard. It was marked for an all-hands meeting. Relief washed over me, and my shoulders dropped, along with my president mask. I bought a can of coffee from the vending machine, slumping into a nearby chair. What am I even doing? Huh? What? As I turned around, startled, there stood Michelle. I quickly sat up straight, pretending nothing had happened, but Michelle's amused smile made my mind go blank. Mr. Yates, what brings you here? Oh, right. I'm the president now. I really am the president. I just felt like having one of these coffees. So, how have you been? I hear you've been doing an incredible job. Actually, I'm still a work in progress. With all the studying for certifications, I'm just barely managing. And, well, I'm on standby. So I should head back to my desk now. Excuse me. It's not about the coffee. Ha! When Michelle called me Mr. Yates, it threw me off balance. She was right here, yet it felt like she was somewhere far away. I could feel her trying to put distance between us, and I didn't want a repeat of that last time when things were left unsaid. I just wanted to congratulate you. I'm really proud to see all your hard work being recognized. Just one more step, remember what my father told me. To make sure I could create happiness in my life. Are you free tonight? There's this famous Italian restaurant. When you showed me that inn's website, I noticed you had it bookmarked. I thought maybe you wanted to go. How about it? I looked her straight in the eyes, determined not to look away as I spoke. To anyone else, this must have been quite a sight. Michelle looked down. I'd seen her bow her head like this a few times before. Sometimes it was when she was crying, and other times when she was laughing uncontrollably. Thank you for inviting me. I'd be happy to join you. She kept her head down, but she agreed. We formally exchanged contact information and parted ways with a slight bow. Looking back, we'd never even exchanged numbers because seeing each other every day felt so natural. What do I want to say to her tonight? I have a reservation under Samuel. Arriving a little early, I kept running through how I'd start the conversation. It should have been simple, like when we'd eat lunch together, but it wasn't coming easily. This place was even trendier than I'd imagined. Though I'd invited her, I was a bit nervous about actually getting a reservation. But Madam, who had seen the whole thing unfold, stepped in. In no time, she'd made the reservation. Then she gave me a solid smack on the back, saying, "Show her what you're made of." She still hasn't read the message. If Michelle were going to cancel, she'd definitely let me know. That's just the kind of person she is. Even if she was running late, I knew she'd let me know. Just to be sure, I told the staff I'd step out to look around for a moment. Maybe that image of her as always reliable was something I'd built up in my head. After all, she hadn't seemed that enthusiastic. But I chose to trust the Michelle I'd come to know so well. Which meant, something might have happened. Something that could be stopping her from contacting me. Wandering around aimlessly wouldn't help. If she walked here from the station, I'd start by retracing that path. The area was already pitch dark. Even though it was near the office district, there were plenty of side streets and risky spots. When I was trying to shake off the unsettling thoughts. "Stop, let me go." From a dark side street, I heard a muffled voice. "Michelle. Damn it. You said we wouldn't get caught here." A group of masked men had surrounded Michelle, one of them covering her mouth with his hand. Michelle was crying, struggling in their grasp. "Hey. What do we do about this guy?" "Fine, right?" I heard this guy's loaded. "All right, then." One of them swung a bat in one hand, clearly intending to come my way. "You're not just passing through, are you? This has nothing to do with you, old man. Move. Michelle. Don't worry, I'll get you out of this." At that moment, one of the men threw a punch to my stomach. "Hey." "What?" "Believe it or not, I'm a company president. So I'll be exercising my right to self-defense from here." Basic self-defense skills may seem simple, but they're no joke. When backed by solid training, brute force doesn't stand a chance. The others froze as soon as I took down the first guy, making it easy to put the rest of them out one by one. "Hey, old man. What are you gonna do if something happens to this chick? Ow. She bit me." "Samuel." "Nicely done, Michelle." After dealing with the last guy, I hurried over to Michelle. It seemed she hadn't been hurt. I placed my jacket over her shoulders and gently wiped away her tears with a handkerchief. "Michelle, are you okay?" "Samuel." I was so scared. It's all right now. I'm here. You're safe. I placed the handkerchief in her hand and slowly turned around. Maybe this was all my fault. I was prepared to be resented. But I had underestimated the situation. I'd overlooked the fact that sometimes pride can blind people completely. No way. Michelle seemed unable to grasp what was happening. Of course, she couldn't. Is that what they call the art of kingship? Even your self-defense skills are impeccable, Mr. Yates. Was the sales department really so unbearable, Mary? Are these guys friends of yours? Just some idiots I found online. Illuminated by the occasional headlights of passing cars, Mary stood there in her perfectly styled makeup, a fitted suit, and her short hair blowing in the breeze. Mary, this can't be real, right? Just because you don't like me, you do something like this. This kind of thing? You said this kind of thing? Don't you get it? I hate you so much it makes me want to do this. Ah. You wouldn't understand, right? Just a high school grad, so you wouldn't know. You're just lucky, just young and cute. You'd never understand my struggles. This wasn't her usual sarcasm. With eyes wide and voice almost like a curse, Mary continued. I wanted to be in the product development department. That's why I worked so hard in sales, did everything I could, and finally won the transfer. But then, you came along. Being a high school grad, you needed everyone's help, got praise for just doing the basics, and on top of it all, got assigned to a project team before me. A high school grad like you. Her breathing was heavy, her words echoing in the darkness. And in that moment, I realized I was clenching my own lips tightly. But the words were already spilling out of my mouth. Enough! Both Mary and Michelle flinched at my shout, but I couldn't stop now. Mary, what have you even been looking at when it comes to Michelle? Did you see her just sitting around, or simply trying to charm people? She came in early, stayed late, and earned her certifications, doing everything she could to get up to speed. She's still working to improve her skills. Everyone noticed, and that's why people were drawn to her because they recognized her hard work. So what? She's still a worthless high school grad. Why should I have to lose to someone like her? You didn't lose to Michelle. You lost to your own pride. You became so fixated on being the elite that you blinded yourself. You couldn't stand stumbling in the place you once admired, so you clung to your one advantage, your education, to demean Michelle and shield your pride. But that's not strength. Just as I was saying all this, Michelle tugged on my arm from behind. Let me say something, Samuel. Without saying a word, I offered Michelle my shoulder and took a small step back. Her tears had dried, and she was looking at Mary with a sharp, determined gaze. Oh. If you're calling the police, get on with it. Seems like those punks ran off without anyone noticing. I don't like you, either, Mary. Honestly, I'd be creeped out if you did. Yes. But I used to like you. I almost blurted out, what, in surprise. Mary seemed just as stunned, her face momentarily frozen in shock. I remember, on the day of my interview, I was so nervous. In my high school uniform, I felt everyone staring at me, and I kept worrying that I'd fail. I felt awful. But then someone spoke to me, saying, just smile, you'll be fine. You only said it in passing, but you looked so confident, so elegant. You were the kind of strong, beautiful adult woman I admired. I see. But it seems that person isn't around anymore. Mary, you must know where she went, don't you? What's your point? Michelle straightened her back, glaring at Mary with newfound determination. I want to meet that person I looked up to again. So, Mary, challenge me. I'll win, and no matter what, I'll find her again. I'm sure I'll beat you now. Beating you will be easy. The silence was absolute. I could no longer see Mary's expression. I couldn't see Michelle's face either, but I could tell she was standing her ground with everything she had. Arrogant women are such a pain, Mary muttered softly. Without another glance back, she walked away. As soon as she was out of sight, Michelle collapsed. Michelle! I caught her in my arms, finally able to see her face. She had a look that was both sad and resolute, but there was also a smile. I guess I really did declare a war there. Samuel, I'm starving. Do you realize you just shaved years off my life? Oh, Samuel, you're strong. I thought you were really cool, she said with a grin, her usual bright smile back. I was so relieved that I hadn't lost her and that she was still here, calling me Samuel with that same warmth. Without realizing it, I tightened my grip around her. Thank you, Samuel. Even as president, even with so much distance between us, you still came to help me. I thought I was just another employee to you. That's not true at all. Ha! If that were the case, I wouldn't have gotten so nervous just going to buy a can of coffee. Laughing, I made sure to take her to the hospital just in case. As soon as she got into the taxi, Michelle drifted off to sleep, her head resting against my shoulder. I couldn't blame her after everything that had happened. She must have been exhausted. Hearing her say Samuel with a smile, seeing her peaceful face asleep on my shoulder, I knew I wanted to protect her from now on, no matter what. The weight that had been hanging over my heart felt as if it was finally lifting. The southern sky was beginning to brighten. 6 months later. The months had flown by as I went on back-to-back overseas trips. I'd been back for 3 days now, and I was still buried in follow-up documents. I was starting to realize just how impressive my father really was. As for the company, things were going smoothly, at least for now. The product development department's results were impressive. Projects aimed at international markets from the start were also progressing well. A strong new hire with international experience had joined the sales department, which made a big difference. They were collaborating seamlessly. Michelle's chance to meet the person she admired was surely drawing close. As for me, I'd gotten more used to being called Mr. Yates, though I couldn't say if I'd gained any real sense of authority. Because right now, all I wanted was my usual can of coffee. Taking breaks is part of the job. Muttering this self-made motto, I dodged sharp glances from others and headed toward my usual vending machine. I hadn't seen Michelle since that day. It felt ridiculous that, after swearing to protect her, I hadn't been able to follow through. What would I say if I saw her now? No, I had to admit it, the coffee was just an excuse. I needed to accept that I genuinely wanted to see her. Thud. Oh, sorry. Sorry, huh? Acting like a proper president, I see. Lost in thought, I'd walked right into someone. It was Madame Amanda. Wait, where was the vending machine? Oh, that machine? We moved it. The baby president here kept drinking coffee from it, so it's now up on the executive floor. Didn't you notice? I'll be heading back, then. My excuse was officially gone. I'd even been considering asking her to dinner if I happened to see her here. This isn't working. The whole approach is wrong. I can go ahead and risk everything, even if it means crashing and burning. The weight that was holding me back has lifted. Now, it's up to her. Samuel, Mr. Yates. Michelle? There she was, standing by the vending machine with our usual can of coffee in hand. Since you left our department, this coffee has become something of a routine for me. Then today, Madam told me it had been moved here. I was speechless. I don't know, but drinking this makes me feel ready to give my all. Maybe, it's like my version of Samuel now? Oh, that sounds weird, doesn't it? It really does sound weird. Ha ha. I walked up to her, took the can gently from her hand, and said, "For me, this coffee was just an excuse to see you. Sure, I liked the coffee, but without the chance to meet you, it just lost its meaning." And now, I don't know what to do. I have an excuse now, too. I'll come here for lunch to get a coffee every day. Maybe I'll even bring a lunch. It was time to be the kind of man who could make her happy, even if it had taken half a year to get here. Even if I'm just an older guy. I'll do my best to make you happy. I've been happy ever since that day you made me laugh. With tears in her eyes and a radiant smile, I wrapped her in an embrace, and we bought another coffee together. To be honest, I don't remember what we talked about. It felt just like those times we'd spent together at lunch, simple, ordinary, and incredibly happy. Ha! Now that's a legendary secretary. Who else could pull off matchmaking with a vending machine? Oomph. It's all for the company. Work isn't something you do alone, you know? Even if someone at the top stands alone, they can't be alone at heart. Wait a minute, are you saying you set it up so I'd meet my wife? Now, back to cleaning. Why do we work? This may be an eternal question we're all tasked with answering. For family, for pride, for retirement, or just to get through today, there's no wrong answer, so there's no single answer. For me, it's always been for the employees, no questions asked. But now, I have a new reason, it's for family. I'm sure that as time goes on, there will be even more reasons. Some may be painful, too. But I want to think of each reason as part of my happiness. Because gaining more reasons to keep going means I'm living life earnestly.